Today I want to talk about your energy. So grab a tea, one of these, and one of these, because you might need it today. Okay, so I want to talk about your energy, and your energy is your currency. And why do I say that? Because your energy is your currency because you go first. Your energy goes first. Simple as that. Now I think if I would have heard this maybe 5 years ago, it would have ruffled my feathers. So I don't know if it's gonna ruffle your feathers or not. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna get into it anyway. So there's no judgment here because I've done all of these things. So why do I say your energy comes first? Because it literally does. And I've probably said this like 3 times already. Oh my goodness. Okay. So why do I say that? And I wanted to start off with this example. When a house is built, I'm just going to use like a man and a woman as an example here. When a house is built, let's say the man builds it, and the house is built and it's got the foundation, it's got the framing, it's got the roof, it's got the whole thing. It's structurally sound. And then he's built it for his wife and she moves in and it's just a house, right? But the difference here and what I'm talking about is how the energy of the house feels. Like when somebody walks into the house, what's their first instinct? What's their first impression? And this is what I want to talk to you about today. I have key points. It might be a little jambly, but we're going to get through it. So when I use this example, there's 2 sides of the coin. When somebody walks into that house, what are they going to feel? Are they going to feel the opposite of great energy, fun energy, present energy, creative energy, receptive energy? Like, is it welcoming? Is it inviting? Is it, all that good stuff? Or does the environment feel sterile or so controlled that you can't touch anything? It's that kind of a feeling. And this is the energy that we have the power to actually create with. And this is our currency. And I love using that example of the house because it exemplifies everything. Because a building is just a building until we put our energy into it. And so if we're not putting in energy that is, fun or enjoys life or has values herself or anything like that, uses her creative genius mind to make the best possible spaces, always follows her nudges, and then finds a pillow that's just perfect. Like, I know this is like house, but I'm literally talking about energy, and I'm just using the house as a way to concrete for you this what I'm talking about. This is what I built everything on, is the direction of the energy and what we embody. And I have a couple of good examples here too, but I just wanted to quickly just check. So the other example I want to use for this thing is in relationships. Now, I've practiced this in my own relationship with my husband, and it's phenomenal. So when I realized that I was operating as fearful, controlling, creating chaos, like not the good kind of chaos, like destruction around me, everything I touched just seemed to kind of blow up. It never really worked out for me. So when you're operating from that, it impacts your relationship big time. And what was happening was there was a little bit of, I mean, I guess that like when you're like this, you tend to, it's pushing away. Let's just say it this way. The energy that I had was I was pushing away. And so that internal pushing away to keep myself safe and from harm was pushing everyone and everything, all the good stuff, like the money, you know, all the fun, the excitement. It was pushing it away as well. And so, of course, I'm pushing away my husband, and of course, I don't realize it. And then I started diving into this because the first time this ever happened to me, I was like, what are you talking about? Somebody had mentioned the word the feminine to me, and I was like, what does that even mean? What does the feminine mean? And I had no idea. Like, I'd never heard of things in terms of like masculine and feminine. So don't worry if you're confused by it. I went down the rabbit hole and I was trying to discover what it actually meant. And what the way I understood it is that I was operating in my masculine and pushing and going and initiating. And learning about the feminine was initially, and I'm sure you'll find this as well if you've gone on this journey, that a lot of the superficial feminine stuff is about like, you know, lacy and, you know, that kind of stuff, and more like a embodying of more of a like a sexual thing going on, but that's not it, and it's not all of it. It is part of it, but it's not all of it. So when we take these principles and we learn to understand what this means and how we function within relationships or within our clients or, you know, that kind of thing, you're able to spot how these people are operating, because I've spotted it within myself. So, I mean, I can see it plain as day with the people that I work with, my clients. And so that's like the superficial level of the masculine and the feminine. Like the masculine, like, okay, the wounded feminine is how I was operating. I was operating as a fearful, pushing away, that kind of thing. The wounded masculine is saying, well, fine, I'll just do it myself, and just does it and is exhausted and burnt out. So when you turn that around and you stop operating from that and you understand what's happening there, and believe me when I say this, there's no judgment here because I've lived the exact same thing, so I know what I'm talking about. So when you explore what the feminine actually means, I mean, like I said, in a nutshell, your energy is receptive, it's open, it's inviting, you're magnetizing, you draw things towards you. And that in itself will, and this might not make sense, but bear with me. When you are in the depths of your emotions and you understand how you're feeling and you're in your body, sure, like I said before, the sensual part of it is part of it. Like, you need to know what's going on in your body. You need to be able to come into your body and feel it and understand what these emotions are. When you do that and you clear this stuff out and you understand your emotions and you heal them and all that good stuff, your energy shifts and changes. That means if your feminine changes, the masculine has to change. There's no choice. Zero choice. It has to rise. Now, how does this look in a relationship? Let's just bring it back to earth here. Okay, so I was operating in this lower level of feminine and wounded masculine. So I was, you know, making messes, had these crazy ideas, we were doing it. And, you know, I bless my husband. I mean, we went through so much together and it was essentially all on me. Because I'm saying your energy goes first. So anything that happens in your relationship, I'm saying it's, first of all, it was on me. And it could potentially be on you as well, because we go first. Our energy, our frequency goes first. So the messes that I had made, he wasn't able to really do much about it because I was pretty demanding about it. And once I finally figured out all this stuff that was going on and I understood that, holy crap, I'm making these messes, I'm creating these disasters and all this chaos from my energy because I'm walking around not healing the wounded parts of myself. So that was eye-opening. And then you have this whole process of like, oh my goodness, I'm like so horrible, you know, all that stuff. But it's really not the case. It's only a matter of understanding, learning, and growing. So when I understood what I was doing, and I started to embody these principles of, understanding my emotions, like, why am I reacting the way am I reacting? And you uncover all this stuff, and eventually, you come out of it. I practice it for my own benefit in my relationship with my husband. So the first thing that I want to say about this, just so that you can get like a sense of what I'm talking about here, energy wise, like before, he would come home and he'd be super quiet, wouldn't really want to talk to me, like from work kind of thing, super, super quiet, didn't want to talk to me, I'd make a big deal out of it kind of thing. And then later, I finally tuned in. I was like, okay, I understand what's happening here. When he comes home from work, he needs a minute to decompress, come into home, because he's coming from one environment into another environment. So he's going to react to me. So if I'm having a bad day, he's going to react to that and stay the hell away from me. But if he comes home and I give him his space, just say, hey, hi, how are things going? Give him his space, whatever it takes, like a half an hour, whatever. I mean, trust me, this is not an overnight success. I think I have an exceptional husband. He responded really well. I'm not saying that your spouse is going to respond as quickly as mine did, but the proof is in the pudding. I know it worked for me, so I know it'll work for you, given it time. So now what I do is when he comes home, I don't bombard him right away. I understand that, okay, his energy is doing his thing. He needs to decompress, blah, blah, blah. When he's ready, he will come to me and say, oh, hey, and then I let him talk about his day if he wants to. And it's changed everything. A simple little thing like that is just phenomenal. Like, it's really improved a lot of things. But the other thing too, I remember one of the things that really drastically improved within like 2 months, like I'm not kidding. And I was studying acupuncture at school. So there was like tons of work I had to do, tons. And I was always studying, and I had classes and, working and all that stuff. And it actually used to drive me crazy that he'd start talking to me when I was trying to study. And then I finally, okay, let's just stop playing this little game. You could see that I got papers in front of me and I'm reading. And so it was aggravating. So this was a sticking point for us. So what I did instead was, when I started studying and he saw that, but it didn't register, he would start talking. And what I decided to do was just stop and listen to him. And just that alone changed everything. That one simple little thing. It was surprising. He actually blew me away one day. About two months into this little mini experiment of, keeping myself contained, instead of spilling out my emotions or anything like that, my ideas or whatever, I just contained it for a while. And then when the opportunity was right, then I would say, are you available? Like, can we have a conversation right now? So containing yourself is one of the key things that I did here. And so when I did this listening thing, within 2 months, like we were driving, or I was driving the car and he was in the passenger seat, and he said to me, wow, we're really doing really well, aren't we? I just about crapped my pants when he said that. Like, now, well, this was quite a few years ago, and now I can say this year we've been married 27 years. So we've been married for a very long time. Very long time. And so these little things of containing your energy really, really make a massive difference. So anytime I am like triggered, I do my best to contain it and try to understand. And it is not easy sometimes, because sometimes, like things happen. Whether, like the husband, for sure he's going to trigger you. A client will trigger you. They'll say something, whatever. Containing it, let them say what they've got to say, because 9 times out of 10, they're just projecting and it's not about you anyway. So learning that has been like such a massive lesson. So just those principles alone really, really changed everything. Yeah, I can't even tell you how much has changed everything, just the listening part. So of course you can experiment more with this, and you can, try different things. But the ultimate goal is like when you're in that spot and you're even trying to contain yourself, because I've been in many sticky situations where I've just like so frustrated, and you're so scared, and you're kind of angry at the same time, and you just blurt stuff out. Like, it takes a lot of control, self-control, to contain that and understand like what is going on here. Why am I so upset about this? And then you eventually learn that you're bringing that energy into whatever relationship that you're going into. So, like I said, this is vital when it comes to working with your clients. You don't want to go into that situation when you are upset. You need to be able to contain that kind of stuff, understand what's happening with you. And even if you have to put it to the side for a minute, you can. And go on with it, and then deal with it when you have to deal with it, like, a little, hour after your call or whatever. And so this is really, really all about mastery, self-mastery, mastering your energy. The outside does not influence you because you are contained within yourself. You have that boundary. Nothing outside of you can affect you unless you let it. And so when my overall umbrella, the Austera Temple, was created, I had this focus in mind of you and me are the focal points of our life. We create with the energy that we operate in. So we can be operating on one system, or we can be operating on the other system. And sometimes we fluctuate back and forth, and that's totally fine. It happens. Because it's an art. Like, it really takes a lot of like mastery to figure this out and to understand what's happening here and get to that point where those kinds of emotions don't rule you. You rule your emotions. Those kinds of things, like I have another one that came up. Like, I was, just like years before I really, really got this, I think I was in a space where I was like argumentative or something like that, because I distinctly remember pulling up to the bank, and there was a couple that were fighting, and they were behind my car. And I was like, whoa, like, stuff like that is just profound. Like, that's what you're doing. And I believe it was at the time when I was trying to understand what I was doing, that, he was close to me, but not as close as, we could be. And then I started to see little snippets. And it's phenomenal to see when you catch yourself in that moment where you're triggered and you're just spewing everything everywhere. And then you see the consequences afterwards. Like, yes, it happened. You've done it. It's fine. And then seeing the consequences of that spillage. What happens? Did you guys have an argument? Did, your client fire you? That kind of thing. So it's really, really important to know what your energy is, what your emotions are, and understand that they don't rule you. You rule your emotions. You have control over that. That's the only thing that you have control over, is yourself, your self-mastery, your thoughts, your behavior, all of that great stuff. You have control over that. You don't have control over anybody else. And that was definitely a hard lesson to learn, even for me as well, because of the frequency and the emotions that I was packing around as a wounded, part of the wounded self kind of thing. I found myself in the trap of like what do they call that? Like the victimization triangle thing, where you're either the perpetrator, victimizer, whatever it's called, or saving people. That's what it was. And I distinctly remember, like trying to like save everybody and da 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 da. And I'm like, that's just the wounded part. Like, we don't need to do that stuff. And once you actually see how it plays out for you, you can just call your energy back and say, no, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. And then you're smart enough to notice when this energy pops up and you have a choice. It's like, yeah, we can do it for sure. We can do it, and I know where I'm going, and I know what the consequences are going to be. Or I can try this new thing, and whenever impulse I have to save somebody, like a client, or because that kind of energy is more of, it's not a giving energy, it's a controlling energy. And we cannot help our clients when we're trying to control. It's their experience, not ours. So we have to remove ourselves from that sensation, and recognize that when we're trying to be the savior for our clients or our husband or our kids or whatever, remove ourselves from that and recognize it's their journey. It's not your journey. I mean, if they ask you for advice, sure, no problem, but you cannot control another one. This right here, that's the only thing you can control. And I think that's really important to remember that. It doesn't matter what happens out there. It doesn't matter. I mean, look at what we're facing now. You can't control what's out there. You control what's in here, and everything changes. It has to change. Oh, this is the other thing I was going to go with it. Okay, so when I was talking about I was stopped what I did and listened to him. Those simple little things. All of a sudden, because when one wounded person is involved with another one, they're going to attract a wounded person as well. And that's fine. So when I released some of the wounding, all of a sudden he was able to release some of that wounding, whether he was aware of it or not. And so I started to rise, grow. He started to rise and grow. So when I say your energy comes first, means you set the tone for everything, your environment, everything you. And anything that doesn't resonate with that has to go. But if they rise, it's even better, because now the energy is united on a different level, on a more, for lack of a better word, mature level. So when your own energy is better, that means your masculine side has the potential to grow. And then that energy can bring in the new ideas. Whereas before, none of that was going to happen, because you're just like stuck at such a level. And I distinctly remember that when somebody would say this stuff to me, it's like, what? I don't even understand what you're talking about. But I see that when you're in that one operating system, you can't create the magnetic life that you always want, because there's too much crud in the way. And there's no way that your other energy, the doing energy, can go and get it for you, because it doesn't know what you want. He's not gonna show up, and then everything's gonna fall apart. Whereas when you actually embody this and you know your energy, you know your emotions, you're at a different level, all of a sudden your energy for the doing part, because basically the feminine is the receptive and the dreaming and all that good stuff, and the masculine is the doing and the action. All of a sudden, when you take action, it's actually working. So that's like all the different levels that you can play with this. Like on the physical level, those examples are like perfect. You can try them. And I know I can hear, oh, well, he comes home and da 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 da. It's okay. He's allowed to do that. He's allowed to process his emotions. His home is his safe haven. And I learned that when he felt like it wasn't safe for him to come, like he could come home, obviously, but he didn't feel like it was safe to come to me to tell me what was going on. And this is the energy that we're embodying, that people don't feel safe around us. So we need to create that safety within us so that we can be the receptive one, welcome the opportunities. I mean, if they come to you and they're talking to you, it's just like when you're working with your clients, being receptive and open brings in more clients. So they know that you can help them and that they're safe with you. You see how this works? There's so many different avenues and ways that you could look at this, and it just comes down to your energy. Are you safe and open for anybody to come to you? Do you overreact? Then you're not safe, and people will not come to you. And it really comes down to that. I mean, that's basically been my exploration of these different energy types and understanding the union of it and how one operates and how the other one operates and how you can bring them together. And when they say in business that you don't need a strategy, you don't need the structure, well, I'm afraid you do. We cannot work without it. We can't be just all receptive and flowing and intuitive without some kind of a support system to help it grow. It just doesn't work that way. And I know a lot that they talk about, or they used to talk about, I don't really know, but they used to talk about like a feminine business. And, it's just based by intuition, but it's floating in the air. Like, I don't know how people expect to grow. I mean, maybe it works for them, but I guarantee you they must have some kind of an email list, because how do you do business? You have to have business, you have to have the structure in order to take the money. So it's almost like they're disregarding the masculine. We need that. Like, how are you going to get paid if you don't have the structure and if you don't have the strategy? Like, it's vital. It depends. The strategies and the structures are going to be, they look the same, but the energy behind it is different. Do you know what I mean? Can you feel the difference? It's different, even though it looks the same. And that's the best I can explain it, like in this video. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole here with this, but so the two operating systems are the currency. This is the currency that we put out into the world, and this is the exchange that we get back. So whatever you're putting out there is your currency, because usually when you use your currency, something is coming back. Like when you go shopping and you use your dollar to buy something, you get something back in return. There's an energy exchange here. So when the currency is operating on, A, and you're not liking what you're getting back, okay, you've got something to work with here. It's your operating system. But if you're operating on one where, your currency is buying this, let's say, and you're getting something back like so wild and magnificent, then you're doing something right. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And this is why I say your energy is your currency. Use it wisely. Be magnetic, draw the good stuff to you, bring that aliveness to the table, the openness, the creative juices, all of that good stuff. Everything that, we are told to, like, that's not worthy of anything. Bring it in, bring it on, watch your life change. Let me know if you have a spouse in the comments, and let me know if you try these things. It's not like a manipulative tactic. It's a way for them to come to you, to be receptive and open by allowing somebody their space. And try the other one too, where I said contain yourself. And then before you actually say anything, when you contain yourself, is my final tip, my final thought. When you're contained in that moment and something is bothering you, leave it for a couple of days or a couple hours, how long as you can, and then decide if it's important to talk to whoever about your client, your husband. I do this with my husband, but I know that he usually wants to talk about things right away. So I will sit with it for a couple of days or as long as I can. Then I will go to him and say, hey, I got a question for you, or I need to ask you something, or whatever, I need to talk to you. Then you take that emotion out of it, you can present it, and you can have like an actual mature conversation. So that's my final tip. I thank you everybody for being here, my return viewers, my subscribers, the new subscribers. I thank you all so much for being here. And by all means, don't forget the comments. Say, hey, yeah. And actually, I did it again. I forgot to introduce myself. Oh my goodness. I'm here to help you awaken the power of you, because you are powerful. And if this video doesn't say that to you, then I'm not doing my job very well. So I'm Heather, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you.